Good evening. I'd like to call to order the Schenectady City Council Committee for Monday, April 20th, 2026. The first item will be a presentation by the Cornell Cooperative Extension. So I'd like to invite both of our guests up. We have a beautiful microphone.
Fantastic. So we also have to scroll on our slides. Is that okay?
For one of you.
We can share the mic. You're going to bring it up here.
There's a clicker there.
All right. Are we good? Hello, good evening. Thanks for having us speak. We're really excited to share our project with you and talk a little bit more about how we can incorporate the city into this. My name is Kyla Pecoraro. I'm the recycling and composting educator for Cornell Cooperative Extension in Schenectady County. I also run the Schenectady County Recycles program.
And my name is Yaro Bautista. I mainly oversee the actual system and do various education sessions through Sycamore Collaborative.
So we are going to hopefully scroll through this for you all and talk a little bit about why composting is important and why we're here to begin with. So composting is an essential part of the nutrient cycle. You've probably all heard of composting. It's kind of that dirty, gross thing that has to do with food scraps and soil and how they're connected. Essentially what we can do is take food scraps that are destined for the landfill where they will emit methane and create all sorts of air pollutants and not so great stuff. So we want to avoid that by diverting everything from the landfills and sending it to compost instead, where it creates a nutrient-rich soil amendment that we can use on farms, and we in particular use it on school gardens in the Schenectady City School District, and we're really proud of that initiative.
So compost can happen at various scales. A lot of what we do is at the community scale, but for all intents and purposes, you would be participating in compost at the municipal scale, which is definitely the most effective way to have composting because it ensures that access is equal throughout a community rather than sectional things like commercial composting, which is only accessible to those that are able to afford certain costs and fees, or individual composting, which is only accessible to those that have the backyard space or the physical ability to be able to compost.
So the question about how we do all of this is basically through the Schenectady Community Compost Project, which is a partnership between 6 different organizations that are working together to bring composting to the residents of Schenectady. We are primarily focused on schools and community composting, where most of our food scraps come from, that we process on site at Fair Avenue Urban Farm in a composting system known as a static aerated pile, or an SAP system, or an ASP system. Our partners, really quickly for you, are the Schenectady City School District's Farm to School program, Schenectady Urban Farms, Schenectady Soil and Water Conservation District, myself at Cornell Cooperative Extension, Schenectady County, and then Sycamore Collaborative, which is where Yaro works. Our compost system, for more details, our ASP is a solar-powered composting system that can process up to 1,000 pounds of food scraps per week. And it's capable of diverting all of that waste by these aerated systems that you can see on the screen. There's a 4-month turnaround time on that nutrient-rich material. And like I said, the majority of our food scraps come from Dollar Elementary School. We also compost at 2 other schools in other districts. And we bring it there and we process it on site. Everything that's turned over either stays on there or it gets brought back to the schools for the school garden, so that everything is full circle and that the kids are able to kind of get their hands in the dirt. This is what our system looks like when it's full of food scraps and carbon material. That's myself and the director of Soil and Water Conservation District standing on top of the pile, and the handprints you see along the bottom are from the 2nd grade class at Dollar Elementary School, and they were able to come and put their handprints on, and we dedicated it to them so that we could really incorporate the students. And then we bring the 2nd grade class at Zoller every year to see the system and see where their food scraps go, and so they can understand exactly their impact that they're having in the community, which is really great. Here, you can talk about input sources.
So as we mentioned before, Zoller Elementary is the the major contributor to the actual composting system that we're managing over in the Fair Avenue Farm, but we also get input from the Sycamore Collaborative Food Pantry, which is the destination for is the biggest pantry in the region, and it is where a lot of the regional food bank grocery store pickups are destined to. So we have various ways to try to reduce the landfill input that is going in, and instead take that over and compost it to shift that impact towards a positive impact rather than a negative impact. We also have community compost drop-off locations that are managed by Kyla, in which we have over 110 families throughout Schenectady County that are able to divert their waste, and they make an effort every single week to do so. And we also have just lots of other occasional things, like we support people that may have a lot of like fallen apples in the fall and things like that. Yeah, so as of very recently, we have been able to divert over 100,000 pounds of organic food scraps, which I'm going to ask you to clap for that, because that kind of diversion is something that is unheard of for a community scale composting system. It takes a lot of effort, and when you're considering that most of the things being diverted are diverted by kids from ages 5 to 11, it just really brings in the context that this is something that is affecting those kids in extremely positive ways, because they not only feel empowered, but they are also learning critical skills like understanding the difference between materials and understanding this is something that is organic, something that is going to break down, something that is going to be able to, after breaking down, feed my very own school garden and feed other places throughout the community. They're able to see that with their eyes, and they have multiple ways to kind of make that connection between the food that they're consuming and the food that grows on land. On top of that, it really brings in a lot of benefit to Schenectady in general, because all of that material that would have otherwise gone to places before going out to the Seneca Falls landfill is now instead not producing methane and other greenhouse gases that would have been harmful to our communities and our state in general. And instead we are able to divert the amount of energy that it would take 31 homes for an entire year to power their homes. So for context, we have also been able to, even though this is a waste diversion effort to make sure that we're keeping as much food out of landfills as possible, we're also generating so much compost that, again, is then able to be utilized in various other spaces to bring those nutrients back to the community, in community gardens and school gardens that are able to feed our kids, are able to feed our community members, and are accessible.
So programming in general consists of a lot. We do a lot through the Community Compost Project with all of our partners. We go into schools, we do waste audits, we go into businesses and do waste audits. We support prospective composting programs, which we're currently doing right now in Scotia Glenville, doing that for another school. So really excited to keep moving on and trucking through and getting more schools on board. There's a lot more kind of buzz around city school districts about what we can do there. We do all sorts of community drop-off, community give-back days. Just did one on Saturday at Fair Avenue Farm, where residents come in and get compost to bring back to their houses. So we try to make it kind of community full circle events. I don't know if anybody's ever heard of Pumpkin Smash, but it's a really good time in November. We're bringing the community to do things like this. We're smashing pumpkins and composting the waste. So we have a full few weeks coming up of educational programming for the kiddos. We're going to, reach, probably over 1,000 kids over the next few weeks, which is really exciting. So we're really, really proud of this project. So now we're finally at the part why we're here tonight. So where do we go from here? We are looking to do just everything that we can to divert food scraps and increase awareness and education in Schenectady for a few reasons, right? We all know there's a trash problem, right? A trash day is crazy driving through these streets, but we can support that by taking the food scraps out of that equation. So if we're able to take that out, that's reducing the weight of the trash that is being put out, right? That's harmful for our actual people who are physically picking up the bags. We're reducing that weight. We're reducing the methane output from the landfills. We're reducing the actual amount of trash that's just sitting on the streets during trash day that's being picked up. And instead, we're giving people a little bit more autonomy and ownership over what they can do with their waste. So composting at the municipal scale reduces strain on the system. It's a point of pride, honestly. Our system as it is right now is really impactful, and if we could increase that, we're increasing it tenfold every time we just get one more sign up, right? We're expanding Schenectady's sustainability reach. I know that it's like a goal of the city, so it'd be really cool to partner on something like that. What we're looking to do and what would have the greatest impact would be to replicate our ASP system, our static aerated piles system, elsewhere in the city so that we can do the program even more, right? So what we have at Fair Avenue, we serve 110 families. We can serve more if we're not servicing schools, so we could certainly service quite a few hundred households in a system like that. And we are kind of looking for spaces to do that. We're looking for funds to do that. And the idea right now is that, there's some space at Steinmetz Park in Steinmetz neighborhood that would probably be a great place to start looking for that. Another benefit of that is some of the students in that area actually go to Zoller, so what they'd be doing at school, they could actually take home, and then their families could be composting at home as well, which would be really neat. And we're looking to expand that way, so educational efforts would continue with residents in that capacity, and then if we were able to get a structure on site, we would be hoping that we would have a compost coordinator to then maintain that site and hopefully expand. So yeah, the system is, in the grand scheme of things, it's not crazy, crazy number, crazy figure, looking at around $20,000 to implement something like that. And the impact would be a few hundred families in that immediate area, and then we could offer it up to anybody who's willing to drive to that area as well, of course. And we're hoping to expand the program to kind of hit those marks and bring composting to more folks in the city of Schenectady, where we'd love to be more involved. And that's all we have for you. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions or comments? Hearing none, I definitely appreciate you coming out to speak. Sincerely, having this presentation offers to your point, how do we reduce the strain on the system? I know you mentioned a few hundred families. Can you speak to what any realistic metrics are for how many we can anticipate if the city adopted something like this in the first year?
That is a fantastic question. Right now we have 110 and we're producing about 200 pounds, so less than 1,000 would be another about 500 households. Theoretically, depending on, every household's different.
And then I know in our personal conversations you talked about the differences between pickup and drop-off. Would you mind just expanding on that?
Absolutely. So right now we have only pickup at the schools because that's our capacity. We have drop-off in Central Park. We have 2 locations right now. It's really, really convenient. It's 24/7. They're really nice looking drop-off systems, if I do say so myself. And people are able to access them through a locked code, and then they go drop off their food scraps, and you're all welcome to pick them up in the truck, bring them to our static aerated pile system, drop them off, and process them there. It would be highly beneficial if we were to look at maybe a pilot program like Troy's. They did a pilot program from 2021 to 2023 where they serviced 250 households over that period of time. They had a 3-phase pilot program, and they were able to partner with Food Scraps 360, which is a local composting business, and they did a pickup program, which for a lot of folks is more convenient, right? You don't have to leave your house to drop off your food scraps. You just put a bucket at the end of your driveway. And they were able to fund that with a matched USDA grant, and that was a really successful program. So there's both options, really.
And I'm sorry.
No.
The last would just be any stigma associated with the smell. Can you just talk about the technology and how that's not the case?
I'd love to talk about that. Would you like to share about how close our neighbors are at our composting system?
100%. So we have, I think, 3 houses that are directly bordering Fair Avenue Farm on just one side, and on the further side we have another house that just has a small gap between it and the location. There have been 0 total reports since the start of the program over 3 years ago. And many people are operating in the farm space on a regular basis, and there have been no complaints regarding to the smell, because if the process is done properly, there are biofilters with all of the material being covered, and it being a static aerated system means that it is only really allowing for heat-loving bacteria, which are the positive bacteria that are generally not going to create as foul of smells as something like anaerobic bacteria, which is something like if you were to leave something inside of a closed bucket for a prolonged period of time and you open up, that would be where you would have negative smells, as opposed to composting, which is actively reducing that.
Thank you. Mr. Toro?
Thank you. Whereabouts in Central Park are these located?
Sure. So the composting system itself is on Fair Avenue, Fair Urban Farm, and so we do have a drop spot right there. And then we have a second drop spot at the Sustainable Living Center, which is CCE property.
Whereabouts is that?
Next to the tennis courts.
Oh, sure. Okay.
Yeah.
And my next question is, how many pounds do you have a poundage of what you've collected so far?
So we just recently hit 100,000 pounds of food scraps through the system.
Was that the 103?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's been a really great program. The community has kind of taken it and run. I just got 3 more signups for the community compost this weekend, which is really exciting because people are waking up now.
Yes. Great.
And if there are no other questions or comments, I think sincerely what your efforts have been able to produce over the few years at the community level is very commendable. I appreciate you demanding that appreciation, but only imagining what we can replicate at a municipal level, even with the monetary consideration towards the $20,000 with respect to our total budget. I think sincerely, as we later address the concept of just waste collection and refuse, it is becoming just a growing challenge, not just for our system, but for our workers. So I think considering these types of opportunities, it is a requirement and expectation, not just for us, but for the next generation, so we're able to leave them something usable as a plan. So thank you for your time, and I look forward to presenting something with some findings for consideration at a future meeting, but thank you again.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
So at this time, we will have public safety.
So I'd like to call the Public Safety Committee to order. We have one item on the agenda, the statewide targeted reductions in inmate partner violence initiative, Strive Year 2 grant. Lieutenant Bobowicz.
Good evening, everyone. Lieutenant Bowers with Schenectady Police, here to present the, as mentioned, statewide targeted reductions in intimate partner violence initiative, otherwise known as the Strive grant. This is the 2nd year running. To give a quick back brief on it, the governor has allocated money to equip law enforcement agencies, district attorneys, domestic violence service providers, and other agencies necessary funding, guidance, and training to effectively respond to, mitigate, prosecute intimate partner violence through evidence-based, survivor-centered, trauma-informed, and culturally responsive interventions. It's a mouthful. Ultimately, the county has been awarded a little over 1.1 million, which is going to be divided amongst our police department, district attorney's office, the county sheriff's department, county probation, Rotterdam Police, and the YWCA. Again, this money is coming from DCJS for a contract period between April 1st and March 31st of next year. So our portion, the Schenectady Police Department, is going to receive $338,433, which will go to support 2 dedicated detectives, one on days, one on afternoons, half the salary of one of our crime analysts, and other targeted overtime detail funding.
Are there any questions or comments?
Yes. Is this part of the 2026 budget?
This is taken into
accounted for
consideration.
this.
Say that.
We accounted for this in the 2026 budget?
Correct.
The assumption was there.
Thank you.
To my knowledge, Strive is going to be similar to the GIVE grants, and it's just not going away in the foreseeable future. So.
Hearing no other questions, can I have a motion to move this?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
Not you, sorry.
Mr. Torres, not on this
Who
one.
was
I gotta
it?
ask.
Kim.
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
If there is nothing else to follow before public safety, a call for motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, we are adjourned.
Just for clarification, the first quarter report in finance is being pulled. We'll have this back at our next committee meeting once Mr. Gukamak is available. That's recreation.
I would like to call the Health and Recreation Committee into order. We have one item on the agenda. The updated Riverside Park skate park funding. Mr. Williams.
Thank you. I had the opportunity to meet with Assemblyman Santa Barbara last week. It's very exciting to hear that plans to receive state funding are still progressing forward. I don't know where the status of the budget is to date, but Assemblyman wanted to kind of poll the council. I know we have a few new members. This originally was considered in December of last year. There was activities currently in place. Park is not sanctioned, but there are skateboarding activities currently underway. So taking it upon ourselves to identify some funding streams that would allow us to just renovate that space and then bring it up to code. And then potentially as the city's inaugural skate park was a point of consideration that not only the neighborhood association recognized and would appreciate, but also the skateboarding community. So I think at this time, just wanted to see if there's still that continued sense of just collaboration with us continuing. And the last thing Assemblyman Santa Barbara would like to do is get funding for a project that nobody wants.
Any questions or concerns? Oh, Mayor.
Do you have any conceptual designs on this, or what dollar value? Because we not in a capital budget, and the numbers internally we've looked at, the existing facility is about 18,000 square feet. Replacing it with what's a concrete structure, estimates run like $110 a square foot. So that gets you to just under $2 million. They also talk about they want some type of restrooms there. You put them where the current skateboard park is. The full adaptive reuse of the old pump station still hasn't happened. And Stockade Association also has requests in for funding for a sidewalk replacement program. I don't know if they are withdrawing that in favor of this or looking for simultaneous funding, because the likelihood of getting those two projects funded is realistically slim in any one fiscal year.
Oh, I completely agree. I think it's not limiting ourselves based on just the interpretations that we have internally with respect to just the design specs. We did have a conversation with one potential vendor. I think most of the agencies that support these types of efforts do a design to build component. One of the individuals was not able to provide us a design without giving them the allotted fee, which is between $15,000 and $20,000. But was able to secure a tentative design that took into consideration having a concrete slab repoured. The estimates were around $100,000 based on the scale. I think they projected at 20,000 square feet. However, the recommendation was if you build equipment on top of it, there are tremendous cost savings, especially since their facility is able to manufacture it internally. And they were able to provide a scaled approach of an investment of $100,000 to $300,000, and that was provided to the neighborhood association and the skateboarding community, not as an official design, but just as a way to kind of conceptually move past just our thoughts to seeing what it could look like in reality. So I think Assemblyman Santa Barbara had a consideration for around $300,000. And one of the final points is in these projects with municipalities, it is not far-fetched to have a scaled approach. So they often talked about how these projects are multi-year just to get the process started. Because at the present time, no skateboarding activities should be conducted, and there are. So I think how do we respect that they do exist and allow them to function in a manner that is both safe and accessible? And I think the truly final point was with considerations to the restrooms. I think in the interim, having a porta potty was something that everyone recognizes better than people just using the bathroom out by the trees. So I think as long as we have something projected down the line, I think the neighborhood association very much just recognized as long as we didn't lose sight of that in the future, they could be amenable to just what we're able to do now.
If there's nothing further to Mr. Toro?
Thank you. Could we get a copy of those specs and costs? You said you gave to the skateboard people, and I would like to see it. I mean, if Mr. Angelo, Santa Barbara can get, I mean, the full amount. I mean, you know, and the question always was, is that really where we really wanted it? I know during the ARPA money, we had a nice space for them, but they kind of like there. But so I think it's a bigger discussion as well. But I would like to see at least what someone presented, right?
So I think part of the consideration was how do we ensure that we're making the most use of time. I think in all of my conversations, I've been very intentional with saying I'm one of 7 votes. But how do we ensure that we are being amenable to the fact that we could get this funding, that we could not, but how do we save time? Because essentially we can still use part of the 2026 year if the funding comes into place at the right time. I can share those with the council. I think I moved from a space of just wanting to be very cognizant of as soon as the city truly touches this, I think everyone can understand that we are still liable for anything that happens within that area, regardless of whether signs are up there or not. So I was trying to be considerate to Mr. Wallen's kind of work volume, but I can absolutely share those. It's just nothing official has started yet.
Mr. Motover?
So you're looking for a letter of support, or for us to renew last year's resolution?
Mr. Williams?
I don't think that's necessary as long as the council in its current form is still amenable or in agreement with us continuing on. So with respect to Ms. Wiggins, Mr. Chairs, and Mr. Inger, I think if this sounds as though something that you can see us still proceeding forward with, Assemblyman Santa Barbara was just looking to kind of just re-gauge where the council stood.
Mr. Mayor?
But again, in terms of the city's priority, we still may need some money. Had conversations with state legislators in terms of finishing some of the paving and street work adjacent to the swimming pool, tennis courts, and greenhouse. We may also need a little bit more money to finish the conversion of the casino in Central Park, which was, Santa Barbara was very instrumental in getting that. And then in this, again, Stockade Association has reached out looking for a sidewalk program. So I don't know which one would take priority as opposed to, it's a limited pot there of money.
Mr. Chairs?
Twofold. Mr. Brown, for the part that Mr. Williams had asked you already, just verifying for point of clarification, do we need to do an actual renewal of the resolution as?
No.
Okay.
I mean,
It can
it's
just
right there. I mean, you don't have to, it's there. You ask for that money.
Oh, just making sure that we're in compliance with doing everything. I know he's giving respect to himself,
Good
Hayden
request.
and Ms. Wiggins, but I want to make sure that if it needs to be done properly.
Right. The similar member asked the council president just to take the temperature of the council if we're not in support of it anymore, then we would have to rescind it. But if the sense of the council is to keep on going as it is, then the council, that resolution is not that old, 4 or 5 months old, so.
Thank you. And Mr. Mayor, just for that, I know you know what this grant is. What is the amount that we've estimated for the sidewalk replacement that they originally asked for from the Stockade Association, comparable to the $300,000 grant that the Assemblyman is saying you can get for the skateboard park?
I don't know what the number is for sidewalks, what they're asking for. Well, I would say they're probably asking for all the sidewalks. There is not enough money for that, so.
Gotcha. Thank you.
If there's nothing further to come before the Health and Recreation Committee, I ask for a motion to adjourn.
So,
Second.
Committee's adjourned.
All those in favor?
All's in favor?
I
Committee's adjourned.
At this time, I'd like to call into order Committee of Government Operations. Seeing one item on the agenda, I'd like to recognize Council President Carl Williams.
Thank you. So this is sincerely a continuation of a conversation that we heard at, I think, 2 previous council meetings with an individual, Mr. Sage, coming up and asking the city to endorse a project that will be coming through our municipality. Is taking a very intentional vantage point of the Underground Railroad and how it will cross through a segment of the city of Schenectady. This was a 2-phased approach, part of which started in, I believe, central New York, and the second phase is going to continue through the metropolitan area and carry forth through Albany, Schenectady, and out west to connect the two. I have never heard of a byway before, but I think if we have any opportunity to preserve history and culture, I think in a manner that just allows us to further highlight just previous struggles and consummate that type of just legacy with Harriet Tubman and the Underground Railroad, I think it is our requirement as a municipality to really consider this. And he's very intentional in saying that these efforts for municipalities to endorse this go a very long way. So I think they've already had 26 municipalities sign on. This is nothing new, but sincerely our investment would help progress these efforts forward.
You've heard the resolution in support of the Harriet Tubman Underground Railroad Byway in New York State. On the question?
Thank you.
Councilwoman Wood?
So I spoke to the gentleman when he came that evening and steered him over to the library to visit Harriet and Mr. Seward. He didn't know they were there. I did ask him about, I know like whenever along the highway you see Eisenhower, it's an Eisenhower highway, there's a lot of funding that goes out for it. And he said it would be the same opportunity here. There'd be funding and grants to help with whatever needed to be done. So, yes, thank you for bringing it forward.
I think it said they acquired $500,000, and I don't think they have any other needs outside of that, but very much I think just having the support from local municipalities helps.
Any other questions? Seeing none, do I have a motion on the floor to support the Harriet Tubman Underground Railroad? Moved.
So moved.
Been properly moved by Councilwoman Wiggins, properly seconded by Council President Williams. All those in favor?
Aye.
Seeing no other items on the agenda, do I have a motion to adjourn government operations?
Second.
Carl, so moved.
It's moved by Councilman Williams, seconded by Councilwoman Wiggins. All those in favor?
Aye.
Government operations is now closed at 6:04 p.m.
I'd like to call to order Public Service and Utilities. Tonight we have a discussion from Mr. Wallen about the city's MS4 program. Mr. Wallen.
I came to you guys last year with enough. I just want to push this phone out. Sorry, put this here. Thank you. So every year I have to come before you and we talk about the city's MS4 program. The New York State passed a new permit 2 years ago, so we're in year 3 of the new DEC general permit, which puts requirements on municipalities such as the city of Schenectady with regards to stormwater quality review and inspections. So this is kind of an annual update to the council, the mayor, and then the city public at large. Just so everybody is aware, our MS4 report, an annual report that's meant to be kept public, it is on the city website. It is currently on the water department website, but the water department website is probably not the correct spot to be. So I just had a meeting today with IT, and we're going to be looking to make a new stormwater page. We'll actually probably be able to do it this week on the Department of Engineering's website. So we're really trying to get all the information that is required available online. We're also going to probably keep some of that information outside here at the clerk's office, just so people are aware of illicit discharges and who they would call and the steps. We use the C-Click Fix system. We can still use that, but it's just getting the message out on how people would report spills and what information we have with regards to outfalls. So everything's online on the city water department, and then later this week it's going to be moved to the Department of Engineering. The city did have an audit with the DEC on March 24th. We haven't been audited in several years. The DEC comes in person for the day, and they meet with city staff, and they go through our report, and they make comments. We have not received their comments yet, but I'm anticipating them as they're still reviewing them. And then as part of that comment period, they also go with us to our Bureau of Service, which is our main area where we have our trucks and vehicles, and they do inspections on catch basins and means and methods, make sure that we have all of our catch basins are clean, our trucks are not leaking, things like that, because it's all about keeping the work areas clean. So we have that going on. One of the things is we've had a lot of construction in the past couple of years. Right now we're actually at a little bit of a wall. So anyone that disturbs more than an acre has to have a stormwater management plan. That plan usually starts with the planning department. That's where projects start. Then engineering reviews those plans, and we go through the DEC and we handle the permits for anything over an acre. Right now we have 2 active. The 2 active permits we have are the YWCA expansion in the stockade on Washington Avenue, and we have a storage company on Watt Street, which would be an old parking lot that is at the corner of Watt across from an industrial building that's right there by the bridge. So those are the 2 active SWIPs that we have going on, and the development department is working right now with GE Vernova on an exciting project on campus that will not only require 1 acre, but they're looking to do some more disturbance, so we're working with them on their multi-phase project on the GE campus. So that's what's going on with regards to the SWIPs. Also, we are working with a consultant, MJ Engineering, and residents on the Hans Rootkill and College Creek. That was brought up by Union College about water quality in the GE plot in College Creek where it's open. That project's been going on for a little over a year, but it's a very intensive project requiring a lot of field work. We've been working with consultants and using in-house staff to dye, test, smoke, make sure that the goal is trying to find any older homes that may have tapped into a storm line instead of a sanitary line, which creates that cross-contamination. The city of Schenectady is very fortunate that we have 2 separate systems, but a lot of municipalities in this state do not. They have a single system, which is one of the things that everyone's trying to eliminate. And then lastly, as part of some of our requirements, we will be inspecting all of our city outfalls. So the city outfalls is kind of what it sounds like. It is where the stormwater meets another body of water. It's where it comes out. We used to have over 75 outfalls, but we went through an audit internally working with a consultant, and we narrowed it down to essentially 35 outfalls because we were counting outfalls on the same stream. And you don't need to do that. An outfall is at the end of the stream where you have it, where it daylights. So we're working on that, and then part of this too is really working on the mapping component. I'm sure you saw in the news that we're working with a group called Civil on pavement management and software. Part of the Civil package is working with GIS and the mayor's team with Matt Douglas, and we are looking to, as part of the Civil package, what they'll be doing is not only collecting data for the road conditions, but we're allowed 2 assets a year as part of that program. The 2 assets that we selected this year are curb ramps, which are required by the state for ADA compliance, and then we also selected catch basins. So at the end of our Civil audit, which Steve is working on this week, if you were read, he's going to be driving, they're going to process all the data, and we're going to get geolocations of all the catch basins in the city, which we're then going to co-locate with some of the existing information we have to try to start building a 3D map of the stormwater system, which is actually part of what they want to see. They want to see that if you pour something into a catch basin, exactly where that water is going to go, and vice versa. If we go to an outfall and we see a white or a red or some kind of a shiny liquid, that we can actually trace that back and find the source. That's part of this program. So a lot of progress that we're making. Also in the budget is an MS4 officer. That's something that I've been working with Paul on, working with civil service, trying to bring someone on to handle this, because there's other paperwork items and things working with. One of the things we have to do is document all treatment basins, and that's another thing that we're hoping to do via mapping, so that we know where they are. There's underground units, there's private units. We really have to make sure that they are being maintained and kept in working order. And that's a new requirement that we're going to start working on as well. So that is my update as kind of like I said, and as required. If anybody has any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer.
Mr. Williams?
Thank you for that briefing. I think my one question is actually around the Civil package. I was trying to recall, Mr. Mudavan, I don't know if you can help me. Was there any financial considerations that came before the council for that, or not needed at this time?
No, you're talking about the Civil package we paid for with our fees for service lines and through some of our existing codes, because the platform actually crosses so many departments that we were able to use fees for service lines that were in budget. It was not an exorbitantly expensive program to use.
Mr. Charis?
For the MS4 officer that you were saying you need, do we have a financial process, not financial number that goes with that? Any kind of?
Well, it's in the budget.
Okay.
It is a position that is budgeted, but we are working with civil service right now, because what we need to do is change the job description. The position used to be a little bit of a lower level, like an assistant engineer type position. What we really want to do is make sure that it's written that the MS4 officer is the one that is responsible for the program, and is not someone that just is responsible for the program to me. I want really to make sure that the person knows that this is their program, that they're not an assistant. So there's a lot of little language in there that if you've ever read a job description that says something like shall assist or shall hire, we're trying to make it so when we hire someone, we can say that this is your primary focus, to make sure. And we have consultants that we work with to help. So we're not going to be putting somebody out there just, like a babe in the woods. It's going to be something that, where we're going to give people resources to succeed. But I just want to make sure that it's not a position that's solely written to be someone to help me, and then everything slowly falls back to me.
Thank you.
Ms. Williams?
What was being done before this grant came about? How was y'all conducting the data?
Grant.
Before the MSG, this whole thing that you're doing, how was y'all keeping up with all of this stuff before that?
So the MS4 program was always out. It was always
MS4, excuse me.
No, it was always something that was out there. But this new permit that came out in 2024, they had been working on it for a decade. So what was happening was this: all the municipalities, DEC, in a perfect world, the DEC would be fully staffed to 100,000 people, and they'd be able to handle all these things on behalf of New York State. That's not what happened. So what they started to do is push some of those responsibilities down on the municipalities. So municipalities such as Schenectady became MS4s designated, and it's our jobs to do essentially that effective branch. They pass legislation, we have to enforce the legislation. With the new permit, They even pushed it even farther to say, okay, you approved, for example, let's just use like a Home Depot. Go to the Home Depot over on the crosstown and you go in and they'll have like a retention basin. You'll see like a wet area, right? That retains all the stormwater from the parking lot. Under the old, it's your retention basin, you know, and now under this, it's the city has to go and inspect that retention basin to make sure it's working properly. We have to make sure that if a city, if the Gillespie Group, they have a Vortec unit, which is called, it's a giant underground cylinder in the ground. We have to go and make sure that that's been inspected and get records of that. They're pushing more requirements down. So we used to do these things, specifically to center around development of this more than an acre, but now it's even more active. It's, okay, you did that, but now that they've moved on, now you're still responsible for it. And you have to make sure that they're still responsible for it. So it's just, it's more of essentially unfunded mandates on the municipalities, which is why that position is now needed, is because it's going to be annual letters, it's going to be annual inspections and things to really ramp up to make sure that, that we're there. And, you know, in the suburban areas, they have more of this because they have more new developments that have more new treatments. We don't have a lot of these type of treatments in the city, but we do have some. And so that's part of the mapping, is going to be to make sure we map where they are and then come up with a strategy of how we're going to document that people are cleaning them and that they're in working order. And then we have to do that as per the report. In that sections of the report, it says, if you were to look through it online, it has all these first year mandate, second year mandate, third, fourth, fifth years, and how you build your program. So by the fifth year, you should have it all built out.
Thank you, Mr. Warren.
Questions, Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, you mentioned paying out of the fees for service. How much are you paying civil consulting to do this pothole program?
The civil pothole program, it's approximately $20,000.
20,000. So you mentioned it's a pothole project, but they're focusing on core and the what is it, drainage?
No, okay. So I'll give you, you want to talk about civil for just 1 second?
Yes.
Okay. So what civil is essentially it's a Google Street View, for layman's terms. It's a Google Street View device with a LiDAR component, and LiDAR means it's essentially a survey device. So 5 years ago, 10 years ago, a surveyor would hold a device and it had a laser and it would shoot a point. All right, so the point was from here to that point, and you would know the coordinates of that point. A LiDAR unit uses GPS, and it always knows where that component is because it's using satellites, all right? And then the component on top of the car, it spins. And as it spins, it's shooting out these lasers in a pattern, a huge pattern. So as it's driving, it's actually sending out millions of points all around, and it's mapping the city. So we're going to drive all 171 miles of the city, and we're going to take photographs, and those photographs are going to be with the laser grid, all right? And we're going to get that back. Now, Civil's main bread and butter component is that they focus on the ground. The data on the ground correlates with the cameras, and it uses AI to say, that road looks like it has cracks. That data that is there looks like, yes, this is cracks. I can see a pothole is deeper than a normal, and it uses that, and it actually will make a colored chart on the roadways of distress. So you'll be able to see the distress of the roadways. So that is Civil's bread and butter product. That is the base product. But as a company that's also trying to make money, they came out and said, well, if we're shooting every point in the city, what else can we sell municipalities? So as part of that, they also allow you as a base package, and we're just getting the base package here, they allow you 2 assets a year. So we have assets. An asset could be a fire hydrant, a sign, a tree, a manhole, a water valve, a curb. So they have a whole list. It looks like a menu of anything that you could see that you could shoot with these lasers. So we decided, like I talked about earlier, that really for criticalness right now is ADA, because the CHIPS program relies on ADA. We have to update ramps and keep a collection of them. That's part of the principle. That changed about 10 years ago. If y'all remember, our paving dollars don't go as far anymore because now we have to do ramps. 10 years ago, we didn't have to do ramps, so our paving dollars went farther. And then it was the catch basins. The catch basins just so that we have our map, so that we can put that as a check mark towards the MS4 program. Next year, with those 2 baseline checks, we're looking to do right now, I think we were looking to do fire hydrants and street signs. So then now we'll have an idea of where all the fire hydrants are in the city, and then our condition of the street signs, so we can do that. And everything then goes onto a map, And that's where we're talking. We're working then with another consultant to try to build out our GIS platform. And we're going to have hopefully a public-facing one that the public can see, and a work-side one that city employees can see to use for their daily work. And that's kind of what Civil is doing. I'm very excited about it because right now, the older way to do it, which we used to do for pavement assessment, was every 2 years or 3 years, someone would drive the city and we would hire them and they would look and they would say, we think this road is a condition 8. It's a 0 to 10 system. It's not really rocket science, but that's how the system would work. And then you get rated on and we get a map, and that's what we used to do. This system is going to be much more advanced than that. Also, we're allowed to drive the city as many times as we want. Now, you don't really need to drive it that much. So what we're going to be doing is we're working with them and we're driving it now, pre-paving. And we're going to get our baseline condition, pre-paving. Then we're going to pave our roads, that we're talking about next. And then after we pave our roads in November, before the snow comes, we're going to scan it again. And we're going to use that information to pull together where our program is. And then we're going to work with Mike Cerrone, Chris Lund, and OGS. And we're going to track where potholes are being filled. And we're going to plug that data into the AI. And then we're going to use that to hopefully be able to predict where the next roads are going to be that fails, because we're using AI-generated software. So that's what I know now, and I haven't even used the program yet. So come to me in a year, and I'll probably know a lot more. We're going to be working with them for a couple of years to really build this out. But it's going to be a lot more transparent. You're going to be able to have a lot more information available.
So just a follow-up. So this project will not include pothole this year, next year.
This will what?
This will not include potholes this year?
Well, never, oh, go ahead.
Potholes
Is it separate?
is a wrong,
Yeah, that's the whole concept.
it's a pavement management system. With the whole idea is to prevent potholes.
Okay.
So that you're better identifying where the pavement's going to fail and staying ahead of it in terms of the paving program or other maintenance techniques that we can use.
You mentioned base level, that's we're paying $20,000. What's the cost for the next level? You can expand this project.
So the base level means that you get all the data and then the 2 assets.
Yes.
So as you go up, you can buy 10 assets, but they charge you somewhere around $2,000, somewhere more an asset. But we didn't need the assets at this point. We really just want the paving data, which is included in the base. So they're like add-ons. And the other powerful feature this has is it uses a query tool, so you can put in there that I want every road that shows this much % of alligator cracking highlighted with a list, and you can run reports, and it'll actually give you written reports using the database so that we can see. I'm very excited to use it, but I don't have it yet. I don't think this is something that anybody should think is a waste of any type of money. I think this is one of the most exciting projects and programs I'm going to use, and I think it's really going to help me, because when people ask, how did you select the road, we're using our data at hand now, and Mike Cerrone and people in the field, but this is going to give us analytical software. We're going to be able to tell how we're doing on our roads and how our programs are going, and we're going to be able to keep histories of what we're doing easier than we do now. I think that's going to be fantastic for everybody.
We would have spent more in past years sending somebody out payroll dollars to do the evaluation, put a numeric value on it, have to key it in, and then do a less sophisticated analysis than what this is going to provide us.
100%.
No, there's a reason why. There's a reason why I asked if you go to the next level, keep adding on as you go through the program in this year, and if you want to expand, you should. If it's beneficial, keep expanding. If it's going to serve the true purpose of helping us with managing our streets.
Yeah, the mayor can attest, along with the police department, the GIS, the Department of Engineering has not scratched the surface of what we can do with GIS, and the more we can, the better it's going to help everyone. And this is our jump into the GIS foray, so hopefully, we're lucky to have Matt here now at City Hall, because he's really an expert at it. So I'm looking forward to it.
Mr. Wallen, could you help me understand why in November we paved the roads and we got to go through winter with the salt and plowing and all of that, and then come spring and come the spring times we're back to the potholes? I don't understand that. Could you help me understand that?
So we have a set route, usually we pave try to November 15th. So the paving season usually is April 15th to November 15th. And we track what we're doing. So right now, we have a very rudimentary GIS database that you can go on. If you go on the Department of Engineering website, you can see everywhere that we've paved in the last 15 years. We don't pave a road twice within a year. We actually, because of bond law and everything, it's every 10 years, you're only allowed to pave a road every 10 years. So we really have to try to stretch it, because if you're gonna use capital borrowed money, that's the rule for it. It goes the same with federal aid projects. So we really have to track it so that we can see where we're going. But the potholes, usually 99% of the time, we're not paving a road and then filling potholes on that same road and in that period. And the asphalt is not susceptible to salt. We do have issues with sometimes with concrete, where we put down a concrete sidewalk or a ramp and then that property owner would salt it. And we have an issue with that. But have you seen areas where we've paved a road and then it's been?
Yes, yes.
Well, if you would let me know those areas, we keep 5% of these projects for retainage to fix areas like that. So we're holding that for last year's program. So if anyone ever has areas that you think the workmanship hasn't held up like it should be, that's why we hold that 5%. And 5% might not sound like a lot of money. It's a multi-million-dollar project, so the number is usually around $250,000 that we hold for up to a year to make sure that their work meets it. We did have some issues in some of those spots with like crack seal. And we're working with that company now. They're coming back in the spring to fix that. Crack seal is kind of finicky. So usually asphalt, we don't have that issue. The other problem that we do have with asphalt, just so everyone's aware, is to try to keep up with the demands of the city, we are no longer doing full reconstruction. So a full reconstruction would mean you go down 6 inches, you hit the base, you make sure. We're doing a lot of 2-inch mill, 2-inch replacement, and the rule of thumb is for every inch you put on top, it's a year for the cracks to mitigate through. So that's why the crack sealing program is important, is that we really want to give a good wearing surface, and then once the cracks come in, we want to address the cracks. So I don't know if that answers your question, but if you ever find something that we paid and then it's starting to deteriorate, please let me know.
Anyone else, any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Wallen. Very informative this evening. I see a lot of people when they're pushing their leaves down the catch basins. I usually stop and yell at them, just because I know how important they are here in the city and in the back.
Keeping them clean is very important for flooding.
Great. Seeing no other questions, I'd like to close out public service and utilities.
So moved.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you,
So I'd like to
Mr.
call to order City Development and Planning. We have 8 items for discussion tonight, first of which is the award bidding contract for the J Street Connector to Carver Construction, Inc. in the total amount of $3,874,174. Mr. Wallen?
Thank you. This is a long time coming project, probably one of the most exciting projects in a long time in downtown. It was the cornerstone of the city's DRI announcement years ago. If you were there, the big black box when Governor Cuomo at the time was there. This is to connect essentially City Hall in Little Italy to the Mohawk Harbor area on a new J Street connector. The connector will run between the car wash and the Union College athletic fields and college campus. We have our agreements with Union College. We have our environmental done with the DEC, and then we bid the project. We did the seeker, if you recall. So we put it out. We had, I think, 4 bids. The bids were varied, but we did get a low bid within the estimate from Carver at $3.8 million. I will pass this out. I meant to include, but it was not. I did not want the work to go on. This is a bid analysis and recommendation. I will forward it to the clerk's office for inclusion in the next packet, just to make sure it's available publicly. But what this is it's just the recommendation that states that they went through the bid and the items were within line. The big variance, if you were to look, was with environmental. We worked with Metroplex and the DEC on this site, but a couple of firms, they have some questions about the environmental, so they put some big numbers there to cover themselves, whereas Carver, who's done a lot of work with the city and Metroplex, We believe they put in a more streamlined bid, understanding that we have taken care of the environmental risk associated with the project. So this is it. We're looking to start as soon as possible. We're hoping this project can get done by November because it is a very unique project where essentially it is a sandbox. They will be not working in traffic for 80% of the project. They will, as you know, the road is closed, so that they can work and build most of the roadway without any interference from the public. And then the last 20% of the roadway will be only affecting Union College and the car wash, and we have plans in there to mitigate that as well. So we're hoping for a quick turnaround on this.
Thank you. Questions or comments? Mr. Toro?
Thank you. Excuse me, thank you. As far as, was it decided that the walking part of Roger Hull Place would now be closed off? Is that part of this?
So part of the real estate transaction was that Union College would be transferred that property.
Right.
However, Union College has not shown or proposed anything that closes that road at this time. It's not to say that they cannot in the future, but at this time they have not. So it's not a, when this opens, that road closes. You know, they have a new president on board. They're going through, and I haven't heard anything about them officially closing Roger Hull at this time. Mayor, have you?
No, thank you.
Any other questions? Mr. Rivera?
Mr. Wallman, this bid came in 6.5% below the engineer estimated. Is that a concern?
No.
That should be there?
No, I don't have any concerns with it. One of the reasons being is that when they do, we have a couple of projects that usually go like this. Usually our numbers are usually 10% lower than the engineer's estimate. The reason being is engineer's estimates are based off of the New York State contract averages. That's how engineers at this level will estimate projects. So that average is an actual statewide average. So it's not only the Albany area, but it's Dutchess County, Orange County, Buffalo, and the prices tend to be a little inflated. So that's where we have to kind of put in, we had a project not similar to this in size, but it was a drainage project over on the north side of the city, Wyoming, Lancaster, and the estimate came in at $800,000. And I said, it's a $500,000 project. And they said, well, all of our numbers say it's $800,000. I said, well, your numbers are not correct. It's a $500,000 project. We went out to bid, it came in at $475,000. It's just, DOT numbers are high.
Over the last couple of years, how do you see the change orders over the last couple of years for paving? Have you seen a lot of change orders being requested, or it's?
No, I mean, change orders are would solely be by myself, or, you know, if there's something were to come up. We don't do a ton of change orders in the paving program. A program like this, change orders would be usually only for something if you encounter it in the ground that was unforeseen. But this project scope is pretty narrow and tight. There's not really much that you can actually change. So it would have to be something that was an unforeseen.
Okay, thank you.
Hearing no other questions or comments, there a motion?
So moved.
Second? Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
The next item is an award bidding contract for the crack sealing of select city streets to 2026 to City Mark Stripping LLC in the amount of $183,750. Mr. Warren?
This is our annual maintenance crack sealing program. We do this every year. It's the first line of defense against roadway deterioration. The list, we had several people come out. The winning low bid was the group that we used last year, City Mark. We had no issues with City Mark on the project, and we have no reason not to recommend it.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Mr. McBride?
You mentioned we have used them over the year. Last year,
No.
was the first year we used them last?
Last year was the first year we used this group.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Hearing no other questions or comments, may I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The next item is the award bidding contract for the 2026 Schenectady CHIPS paving program to Callahan Industries, Inc. in the amount of $3,146,809.90. Mr. Wallen?
This is our annual CHIPS paving program. This program is solely paid through the Consolidated Highway Improvement Program. That's what the CHIPS acronym is. I wanted to award this last week. Typically, we have this awarded, but it is dependent on the state budget. I did speak with the mayor. We're moving forward with just to talk about, we want to move this forward. This is not a signing of a contract, but we really need to get, the bid came in 30 days ago. We want to have this on in process, because we're already a little bit behind. Like I said, we like to usually pay from April 15th to November, and I'm hoping that the state budget gets passed as soon as possible, because it's reliant on state funding. From all of the DOT sources that I have talked with, they have not heard about any cuts. This funding amount, this does not anticipate any increases. This is if everything stayed at its current level.
Thank you. Would that be a more appropriate question for finance, just any stipulations with us doing that ahead of the budget? I know you said that there are no impeding changes. It seems as though we're hedging, God forbid something happened.
Hopefully you'll move it ahead tonight, get approval a week from tonight, still subject to the final adoption of the state budget. So they keep saying, oh, they're going to adapt it. They've been doing extenders, but this doesn't seem to be any point of contention. So comfortable moving ahead with these numbers, and it asks the council at this point to support it.
Mr. President.
Mr. Wallen, you're concerned about, you want to award this because then you want these prices locked in at this rate, at this point, because it was put out the bid and open for over a month now? Or
Correct. And I did speak with our purchasing director. It is possible that I could get a letter asking them to hold their pricing, which most likely they will, because they want to work with the city. However, it also sets us back with time, which I'm really not. I'm trying to buy any week we can to move forward.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments?
I'll move this.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
And last item for you, Mr. Wallen, award bidding contract with Schenectady Police Department generator replacement to S.W. Burke Electric LLC in the amount of $339,000.
Thank you. As stated, our police department has 2 generators, one functioning, one original to the building that is in the basement. They're both located in the basement. The generators require diesel fuel. The diesel fuel is in an underground tank outside of the building in the sidewalk. The tank has been flagged by the DEC for being removed. So we are complying with that, and we're working on a removal program right now. We actually bid it, but the bids were higher than what we would like. We only got one. We want to see if we can, clarify that and get it out. We've been working with the DEC on this project. So what we want to do is, this is a multi-phase approach I'll let you in on, is that the police department, you're going to be seeing me come in with a lot of requests over the next 2 capital seasons for improvements to the police department, which is still very much original to its 1970s mechanicals. These generators are taking up valuable space inside the building. I would like to utilize that space to replace the old electrical switchgear. So what we're going to do is install a new generator that is located outside of the building with an above-ground fuel cell, nothing in the ground. Once this situation is installed and active, we're going to remove all the old generators, and then we're going to come with an electrical capital request for next year to put in a new electrical system, and that way we can abandon the old electrical system, which is outdated. After the new electrical system is in place, then we're going to look to do some HVAC work. But this is essentially the first domino that's going to fall inside the building to make room for the rest. These generators are prepackaged units. We've been having a lot of success with them. They'll be located outside the admin building near the children's garden with a little fenced enclosure.
Mr. Mooney.
Yes, thank you. Mr. Wallen, where is this funding coming from under the 2026 capital budget?
This funding is coming through a capital code called Police HVAC and Mechanical Improvements. This is not a 2026. It is not a 2026.
Yeah, that's, okay.
No, the 2026, actually, you haven't seen any 2026 yet, because I don't know if we've actually sold and are ready to move forward on it.
We haven't.
Right, so this is old capital.
So this was budgeted under the 2025?
2025 or earlier, yeah. These are projects that I'm trying to clean up.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you for clarifying that. I thought it was a 2026 because it's not in here.
I have not even started on 2026 yet.
Okay, thank you for that.
Thank you. Any questions or comments, Mr. Chairs?
So this being the proposed budget received on April 1st, What were some of the hangups that you were seeing from people that were proposing budget? Was it working with the DEC, compliance with the diesel for the generator? What was the issues that you were seeing while we were waiting so long to get someone to give you that? Because you said the numbers that you were receiving.
Oh, you're talking about for the tank?
Yeah.
For the tank removal, we only got one bid.
Okay.
And we think it was because we weren't fast enough with responding to questions about the bid excavation. So what we're doing is we're putting all the questions that we were asked about the removals into the base bid, and we're putting it back out. And we're going to usually we don't actively solicit to companies. We try not to. We use Empire BidNet and other programs. But in this case, to have a number come in that was above our estimate and it only be one bid, it's very hard to recommend to the council something like that. So we want to try again.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, may I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Thank you.
The next item will be a discussion, the City Code Chapter 161-21, Public Collection and Disposal of Solid Waste, next steps in the bulk sticker trash program. If you can all recall, we've been making a good headway with these conversations. This meeting, we will be having an update from Mr. Lunn, I think with regards to fee structure and next steps moving forward.
Thank you, Mr. President. I took this on short notice, so forgive me. Paul wasn't able to attend. We are coming up with some numbers that hopefully will be favorable to the council to make a decision on two-tier system of garbage. Recommendations coming from the garbage. We're going to say a 45-gallon can is acceptable. We like the 2 bulk items once a month per household. The second tier, looking at a possible take all on the second tier, and see what fits the best. We also got to think and remember that when we implement a two-tier system, that we have to look at what our finance department is capable of and our taxation department. With the, we're currently only able to take one tax bill in at a time at a certain rate. When we change that rate per property, we may have to look at getting a separate software system for OGS to implement that. There's a RPS delay from the county that pretty much lags us about 3 months with the sale of a property, which would cause a problem if somebody didn't want the second tier moved into that and was getting taxed for it. So there is a few hurdles to look at, and timetables of when we can implement these systems. But I think the beginning is quantifying garbage and starting at the beginning of what the expectations are from the council and the mayor of how much garbage that we are allowed to create and throw out. And then the second tier. Looking at pre-numbers now, we're at an 8-digit operation. Currently looking at possible shortfalls in the 5-digit numbers. What we were looking at today, that could go up. If things don't change, based on what we see, from the data. And I'd be happy to answer anybody's questions that you have.
Thank you, Mr. Lund, for being present. Definitely have to be very honest, disappointed we don't have any numbers in front of us. I think at this stage, very much expecting to have those to consider. I can very much understand that we are compiling a lot, but I think we just need to make sure we have all the information in front of us to make the best informed decisions moving forward. With that being said, would you mind kind of taking the first question, just speaking to your confidence in the two-tier system? I know you said, but I wanted to make sure we have clear, tangible, you feel confident behind the two-tier program or two-tier approach moving forward for the city.
I 100% back a two-tier system. I believe it's the fairest way to go. It does, there's pros and cons to everything we do. The system we now have is the easiest to enforce. Once we go to a two-tier system, we're gonna have to look at using technologies, AI technologies, of which property, has the second tier and giving us the best efficiency, and trying to keep the sanitation department as efficient as possible. It also promotes, a two-tier system like this promotes recycling, which we can't predict. Maybe I would say half of the households that currently recycle in the city, we're going to see that increase because they don't want to buy a second can or, make that larger investment. With that, the recycling costs the city, I believe, $76 a ton versus $58 a ton for waste disposal. So it costs us to get more now to get rid of recyclings than it does to get rid of waste. So that will be numbers that we'd have to, we don't have data on. We collect all our data. All garbage goes into one truck and it gets thrown away. We know what districts make what. We can track that, but we can't track right now what households make, how much weight. So having a dedicated fund where the, if possible, revenue overflows go into for the following year, you would then have a better idea after implementing the first year, how much you overran, and then that could be credited to the year after and balance it out. So it is going to take a learning phase to get to a two-tier system. But I'm confident that we can get there. I do think that it's going to take some time to implement, and it wouldn't be this year. That it would have to be looked at in the future, and larger conversations would have to be had between departments here in the city.
Thank you. Questions or comments, Mr. McGovern?
Yeah, in a prior conversation, we had talked about 50 gallons of container. How is that, I know in terms of our employees, how is that with the union? Are they going to be, right currently it's a 40 gallon, 45 gallon. We're asking them to go through a 50 gallon. How is that sitting with them? Are they in favor of that?
The current contract references 45 gallons, so that's what I asked be included in this. And our contract with Scotia says 90 gallons per, but what it is, it's 45 for MSW, 45 for recyclables. And that would just have a level of consistency across the board.
The code also says that we accept anything from a 10 gallon to a 45 gallon. So, if there is households that, we could look at, a smaller can for those people that are not able to, carry out that can. If they only make 2 bags of garbage. I do think that in the rules and regulations that we have to define, what we want in a can. Is it with an attached lid? All garbage should be bagged, and so forth. Those are some things I'm currently working on, modifications to the entire chapter of 161.
Mr. McGovern?
So the proposal is going to be staying at 45 gallons and not amending it to go to 50 gallons. We're staying at 45.
I would recommend 45.
So whatever can fit in that 45 gallon container will get put out and picked up.
That's correct.
Okay. Now you mentioned something there in terms of money rolled over into the next year.
I just say, if you read the code now, that it's supposed to have a dedicated fund for any revenue that's going in there, and I think that should continue. So if there is if we make it too much, if we say to collect for that second tier is way, and we overestimate it based on we don't know exactly what each household's going to put out, we could then take that money and figure out what the correction is for those families in the years to come.
No, and I'm glad you brought it up because this is a good opportunity for us maybe to separate the the waste budget, like how we do with the Gulf and water and sewer, and to have a standalone waste collection revenue budget.
Which is what we've been trying to
Yes.
do. The fee wanted to cover waste collection. Today, the waste fee is subsidized by the general fund
Well, that's what
to make the
this is.
numbers work.
That's what I'm saying. This is
Talk about taking the surplus and carrying it forward. There is none. It's a structural deficit.
Yeah. So I think we need to look at that maybe in the next budget to separate the funding for waste. It would be an ideal idea. We're talking about this because he seems to be talking about waste over the last several years. But I think we need, so as we're talking about it, we need to address it and get it behind us. And maybe it's a good opportunity for us to have a separate funding source.
I couldn't agree more. Mr. Shears?
You have made reference to a shortfall of about 5-digit figures. Can you speak more to that?
I would just say that we're probably looking at numbers that are in the red, and we're going to be looking for revenue based on the current tipping fees and what we have collected. Garbage is not static, it kind of goes like this, so I can't say it's absolute, everybody could stop throwing out, but what we've seen in the past is a lot of people move in the summertime before they have, their kids are in school, stuff like that, so we know that there's a heavy time coming also, so we can kind of predict that there's going to be some more garbage being thrown out than normal, or typical.
And follow to that. So, and you said there might be a need for a separate software system through OGS to work everything out. And I'm thinking just from what we've done already, time frame wise, how long would you need to start the implementation process of this two-tier system? Say if we were to pass it today, how long would it take you? Obviously, that's not what's happening at this moment.
Right.
But I'm speaking.
So we'd have to come up with the determinations of exactly what the department needs to operate. It's got to be efficient. It's got to take in. It's got to offer the best services to the community, and also use. And what I think is going to be integrated is an AI software program that identifies the properties that. For my garbage men, how many, is it a multi-tier or is it a single tier directly? So then we can absolutely send out a notice of violation or concern that their garbage is out without, illegally.
And to finish the year, just because our time frame is we had sent and suspended the program till June. You may not have an answer now, but if you could come back with one. But you or Mr. LaFawn, just a recommendation finishing out this year, because as we've continued to have these conversations, which I do believe is productive, we're looking at realistically things that we can implement by 2027 for the year ensuing, right? So how can we finish out the last 6 months of this year that's going to work with OGS workers and that the union's going to be okay with as well?
Yeah, I apologize for not being able to actually give up a time for the software system, and that comes, with designers and going out to bid. So there's a lot of specs to go for 2026. It's quantifying garbage. It's putting limitations on how much people are be thrown out in bulk items, and then an educational program should be put out for. What the expectations of the overflow of those bulk items and how the public should be handling them is what I would recommend.
Mr. Mayor?
The simplest approach would be, again, the council has to make a decision on what the quantity is. So if you go with the 45-gallon can, the first can we pick up under the current fee structure. You can still reduce that down to say that's going to be 5 or 6 bags, 13-gallon or whatever, so we would still pick those up. People who want the additional service could be charged look at it, the simplest thing is today we pass out the stickers that go on the cans for recycling, is we put out a sticker that designates the house as having have paid the higher fee so that they could put out 2 cans that we would pick up. And again, as Mr. Lund's talking about, there's still a lot of variables in some of that. What do you do with the bulk items? How do you handle that? start to phase some of that in relatively quickly, building in flexibility, and then also having just a learning curve of how quick people adopt the process. And again, as opposed to the city buying the cans, we say there's a designated can and work with some of the local hardware stores where people want to go and buy it, they buy it. And again, have to set the standard on it for, does it have the lid, does it have the wheels, other features that make it more functional for the crew in the street.
And before getting to that point, Mr. Enger was talking about those efforts as well. If you want to take a moment.
Yeah, so I think I definitely agree with Mr. Lund that we need to quantify garbage. I think at the last committee meeting we stressed that, and I think we also need to stress for the remainder of this year after June, like Mr. Chairs was saying, what are we going to collect for bulk? Because once that expires, we're going back to the sticker program, or right now we're just collecting everything, which I think, like you said, is not sustainable. To the mayor's point about cans and working with local hardware stores, the city of New York, they partner with Home Depot to have the city seal painted on garbage cans that they sell in the store. There is data that we could do that and partner with them, but I think that's more of a long, drawn-out process that we can look forward in the future. But I think for the short term, we definitely need to focus on, like you said, quantifying garbage, quantifying jackpots, and then, if we talk about 2027, 2028, 2029, where do we go from there? So.
And I'm a fan of Lowe's, so you'd have to. Mr. Woodburn.
Yes,
Be careful.
It's not a sponsorship. It's not a sponsorship to anything. He's stating his personal, the protection of council president. He's stating his personal preference, not a council.
We're talking city tax.
Yeah, thank you. I'm glad that you brought it up, Ms. Enger, because that's what New York City has. These hardware stores will supply the can with a seal. Something that we can tap into and ask them to do that. The homeowner will actually purchase that at their cost. And Mayor, you talk about how do we track these? If we were to go with this tier 1, tier 2 system, are we going to be putting software technology in place to track, show up to my place? How would you know that I am a tier 1, tier 2?
My simple thing is you don't have a sticker on your can, you're tier 1.
Okay.
You have a sticker on your second can, you're tier 2.
So then you're required to have a sticker to identify your
Right.
level.
So that would be the simpler way. So the council puts a fee on the sticker that goes on the can so that you now qualify for twice the amount of garbage as the regular household.
No, the reason why I asked is because our staff are out there. I mean, we cannot put more on them. They're hustling, bustling to get that can into the garbage and move on to the next house. To add more stuff to them, it's kind of like compound already that they're taxing with.
Mr. Wallen talked about working with civil. The presentation that was done in the cycle before with the University of Albany is using some of the similar technology, and those two companies talking to each other to be able to process that. So University of Albany is not just looking at the garbage at the curb, but looking at litter on the street, other maintenance and code violations that would be people's front yards. How do you automate some of those notices? What we found in the past is if we send out a notice for people who have bushes that aren't cut or lawn grass, we get a very high compliance rate with just reminding people that they should be doing it differently. And then it's how do you focus the resources on those problem properties or property owners who drive our costs because they're not picking the stuff up, or they're cleaning the building out and putting the jackpot out there, so we're expecting us to pick up a couple tons of material once a month.
Thank you, Mr. Chairs.
So, sorry, did you have any comment?
Sorry. Yeah,
Go ahead, you had a follow-up.
Yeah, I do have a follow-up, if you don't mind.
Yeah, no,
Mayor,
please.
I'm glad you touched on that, because this ticket here that we had rolled out a couple of years ago, the disappearance ticket of the police department, did mention littering and overgrown grass. Can we tap into Civic to work with the police in order for this ticketing system? to help them along.
But that's part of the thing. How do you automate that and be able to get it generated and reduce the manpower so that everything still requires like a human review. So somebody's got to sit and look at the photos, look at the stuff. But today we send one person out, look at it, they write it down, they go to the next house. This you could scan 100 houses, in a very short period of time and identify those that are in need of, call it a polite reminder, and then those that don't comply with that, then we become more aggressive in our follow-up.
Yeah, this ticket address some of those concerns when
Right.
just highlighted. We just need to tap into the service civic and get it. The next one before if you don't mind. So since we look like we're moving forward in a positive direction here in terms of addressing this garbage, should we move forward in terms of rescinding the sticker program? Because the timing, we have to look at the timing also, because June 2nd, and we want to give ourselves enough time to whatever we need to do, public hearing. We need a public hearing to rescind that and to bring that, get that behind us and move forward into this new program.
Mr. Bryan?
Yeah, to answer that question, if you're going to rescind, any amendments to Chapter 161 are going to have to be via public hearing. And if you change anything, obviously you're amending the code, so that requires a public hearing. So the way ahead is really the question I was going to ask is that, as Mr. Lund indicated, he's been working on sections of the code are going to have to be changed, and the legal office can work with Mr. Lund on getting that done. Your moratorium or suspension expires on Sunday, June 14th regarding the sticker program. So I'm hearing here is a Tier 1 program and a Tier 2 program. When do you want to implement that Tier 1? When do you want to implement Tier 2? And to your question, Mr. Aaron, where does that leave the sticker program? Do we leave the sticker program phasing out at the end of the year, or create, what the guidance that the council has to give Mr. Lund and the legal department at this point is, what do you want to do? You want to do a Tier 1, Tier 2 with an effective date, January 1 of 2026, or an effective date before that, or you want to rescind rescind the sticker program, but where are you going to put it in its place, and when do you want that phased in? So what we need from the council, Mr. Lund and legal, in order to draft something up so at your next meeting you have something in the code in front of you, and then go through the public hearing process, and I can go through that, Mr. Chairman, just regarding the timelines later on. But what we need is, when you want that started under, Tier 1, Tier 2, what does that include? When does that start? And what does that mean for the sticker program?
Did you have a follow-up, Mr. Rivera?
Yes. So thank you for clarifying that. So as we move forward, and we're going to be adopting, hopefully, Tier 1, Tier 2, and as we rescind the sticker program, I think we should do both at the same time with Mr. Long and Mr. LaFont's team and Corporation Council Office and Council is to incorporate all at the same time, because we're going to need a public hearing to amend Chapter 161, and at the same time we need to roll in one, roll out one. So I think we should do both at the same time, rather than rescind one and then go back 2 weeks or 4 weeks and then have to go and amend it. So I think we need to put all together and do one public hearing and amend it and get the language in at the same time.
Thank you, Mr. Bryan. Yeah, and just to follow up on that, and just to clarify, so everybody's on the same page as far as the hearing schedule and when this has to roll out regarding the deadline. So, next committee cycle, we'll work up a draft for the council to take a look at. At the next committee cycle, which is on May 4th, you'll review the draft and then pass out a resolution calling for a public hearing for May 26th. That resolution calling for the public hearing will be on May 11th. And then at the next committee cycle, which is May 18th, you'll have a second look at the draft. And then after the public hearing, which will include the new language as well as the
the repealed language to be taken out, if that's what the council wants. It can all be part, because it's all going to be part of Chapter 161. Then, after the public hearing, there is a committee cycle after that on June 1. So based on the comments you hear from the public, you'll have another opportunity to look at the proposed ordinance, pass it out of committee. The next city council meeting is June 8th, and that is before the deadline, which is on Sunday, June 14th.
Thank you, Mr. Chairs.
There's a lot. Councilman Tavarian, got a lot in right there. So first, I want to stay on point with that. With this, looking at the timeline that Mr. Brown just laid out for us, would your team be able to get the council those numbers that we're expecting today before the May 4th committee cycle? So this way we can actually review those numbers as well, so we can make, if we're going to put it all into one public hearing cycle, I feel, and I'm not speaking for council, for myself, I would like to have those numbers so we can better review and understand that we are going to move into this tier 2, make that decision that same day. I have no problem pressing forward, but I want to make that informed conversation, decision once we get to that point. So if that's something your team could do, I would be in favor with Mr. Tavarian's movement for the code change as well.
I appreciate that question, and my blunt answer is no. I really think that there has to be internal conversations with our taxation department of how this money is received, and then billed out. Currently, if somebody doesn't pay a bill, it goes on to the tax roll. A two-tier system, having municity and our software system limitations currently. I think we've got to get over that hurdle unless we rethink it and simplify the system of and modify the code thereof. Also, that the 161, chapter 161, with the rest of the code is a disaster. You know, it's old, it hasn't been revamped. I want to put it together in one orderly fashion that will last quite a few years, and this council can be proud of. So I would say that timeline for me is unrealistic, and I need to further data from the council on proposals for what I would like to do into or what everyone wants to do into Chapter 161. Just for example, we had code enforcement administrative fees were raised last year, but nuisance administrative fees still remain at a $50 admin fee, which doesn't cover operational costs. So there's things like that that need to be considered. Would they be put in? Would they be approved? And then go forward from there. So I think going a little deeper with the timeline would be more realistic, and then implementation, I think would be 2027.
Okay. So how long projectively, and I appreciate you being honest, thank you first off, would it take for your team, because we are up against that timeline, right? June 14th is real, we've pushed this back, we all got a late start to this year anyway, on top of everything else, the nonsense that we've dealt with. So what can we expect from you as a council timelines that's going to be realistic for you to put that together? And I appreciate the fact that you want to help us put something that's going to be long-standing in the city for a code that I think hasn't been updated since like 1979. So what time frame would you need to get us those numbers?
I would say an extra 30 days would work wonders. I would recommend that. If the sticker program, has already been, extended 30 days, is that something that we could go forward and do another extension on?
It's up to what the council wants.
Mr. Mayor.
What numbers are you looking for? My position has been the council has to make a decision on quantity. We seem to be moving close to that on the 45 gallons. If you can do that, we can move forward on a fairly simplified basis and still building some flexibility in it. I'm not looking to buy the cans from the city. We'd say that here's the standard can. You can get it at Home Depot for city residents, and Carl will try and get the discount at Lowe's just outside of the city. But people can work from that. And again, commit to some level of flexible enforcement so that we're using common sense there, so if somebody goes a little bit over 45 gallons, we're not giving them a hard time. But if somebody is putting out 2 tons of material, they've got to pay for it.
So if I can interject, I'm sorry, but I think similarly, I think we are sort of getting away, and I appreciate the level of detail you were providing. I think it's clear to point out that there are 2 separate functionalities at this table. We as council members legislate. The mayor's office is responsible for operating it. So I think with this, how this situation was presented to the council is the language in the city code is unclear for me to implement throughout the city. Is that accurate, Mr. Mayor?
Correct.
So as we are continuing forward in this conversation, I think we're getting closer. And I think with tonight's conversation, my expectations as one of 7 votes was to give you the go-ahead out of our committee to start building that language for the potential public hearing later on. I think my comment directly to you, Mr. Lund, is can you just simply build a fee structure for these 2 tiers? And I understand how you implement it is going to be complicated to say the least, but that very much is a consideration outside of the council.
I'm confident we can come up with that.
In 2 weeks?
In 2 weeks, yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments?
I do.
Mr. Woodbury?
So we're talking about the 45 gallon and we're going to require that the homeowner purchase it. We're going to need to add that into 161.
Yeah,
It's going to have to be amended.
It's all going to be a big, as Mr. Lund indicated, it's going to all be part of a whole big package. You know, obviously the emphasis will be on the amount of cans, et cetera, you know, the immediate, but we're going to be working on that. So yes, to answer your question, you'll require that to be amended along with other items.
And then in terms of if someone refused to purchase or not purchasing, is there a violation to be attached to that as part of it?
I would, in the interim, do a conversion to bags. So that the ideal thing is that they have a 45-gallon can out there. But if they put whatever the council decided, 6 or 7 bags out, we would pick that up, something that is close to the capacity of the 45-gallon can.
So you're not required to purchase a can with a lid?
Not initially.
Not initially?
There'd be that phase in to.
So we'll need to add that in also.
We can draft it so there'll be a staged phase in as various parts of the code are phased in. So we can tier that. I'll work with Mr. Lund and Mr. LaFond on that. But we can tier that in. And I think for any violations, we already have that. And then if that's what Mr. Lund was talking about kind of upping, you know, for whatever reason that fee was not, and part of the table of fees increased a couple of years ago, so that can be dealt with as part of this omnibus package.
Well, I can talk about the fee. We need to increase the fee for the garbage section.
Right.
But in terms of nuisance, that's a different thing. But I remember when I was piloting the fee increase, I did reach out to Paul and team and asked to sit down and to meet as part of the budgeting cycle we were doing, increasing the fee. And nobody from OGS sat down with me.
No,
we did, but code enforcement only.
No, we talked about nuisance fees.
No, we did not. It was never brought forward at that point. We did talk about code enforcement. We did talk about police and all other fees, but not directly nuisance or.
I don't think ever you should have a split different fee for one department than there's the other. It's based on the cost of operation. And why would the cost of operation for nuisance be any different than code enforcement? So them being grouped in just because they're under OGS and building department being over here in City Hall is
well, at that
secondary
time,
too.
at that time we were going department by department, so to kind of look at the fees and correct them. So we can do it. I'll reach out to you and we can come up with
absolutely.
what we did like code enforcement.
I always want to work on everything right.
And come up with a new fee structure for the ones that we missed. Over the last 2 years, and we can correct it.
I think what I'm looking at is proposing an entire a tiered system for enforcement. For hopefully that a first tier would be like an administrative fee. The second tier would be the administrative fee plus a fine on top. Third fee, each violation in an 18-month period would go up on a property that was not complying, so we could actually start to gain compliance. I see too many people come in and just pay the admin fees and they know their tenants are doing wrong. We want them to manage their properties, and that's what we want, good property managers out there. And secondary to that, I see a lot of landlords that were issued violations for what their tenants put out. So they're the ones paying the violations for, So we really have to have education for the landlords and, the single-family homes here in this program to be successful.
So let's touch base on how we can discuss that, and I'll bring it to the council and let's discuss it.
Yeah,
And move forward with amending the fees for.
Let's do some lunch. We can all sit down and have lunch. And talk
We'll
this
come in.
through.
Let's
come
talk.
up with a great idea.
Yes.
So I'll end with you, Mr. Bryan, Ms. Wiggins, and then Mr. Inger.
I just think the language needs to be clear because summer is much shorter than winter, and we do have a lot of seniors that have to put out their garbage. And we had a gentleman that just came to the council last week where in the wintertime he can't get to his garbage cans. So I think everything needs to be clear and followed so that we're not only recognizing our youth and middle age, we also have to consider our seasons. Individuals where they have to put their garbage out and be considerate of them also.
Okay. Mr. Inger?
So I think the discussion has been very productive. I just think we've gone,
I'm sorry.
not to your respect, Mr. Long, we've gone way full circle.
To wealth of information.
So I think that, for the remainder of the year past June 14th, we have to do something with bulk. We can't go back to like we are now collecting everything. So if we were to implement a 45-gallon can, if that's, 45-gallon can is a 45-gallon can, that's what you get. You could put a smaller can out like the mayor said, but up to a 45-gallon can, and then, whatever we decide on bulk, if it's 1, 2, whatever. But I think for the rest of the year, we have to decide that because, like you said, it's not sustainable right now. And if we keep going down that road, it's just going to keep getting worse and worse and worse. So then if we were talking in 2027 to make these radical changes, I think that's great, but I think for the current time period and the schedule that Mr. O'Brien outlined, we need to make a recommendation for that, just so that we're ready for June 15th after the deadline.
Well said.
And I incredibly apologize, Mr. Toro's been patiently waiting for us.
Thank you. I've said this before, we have one time to do it right, and we're going to do it right. I firmly believe that. So I don't think we need any numbers in 2 weeks, and I personally appreciate everything that you're working on and you're doing. It can be easy on top of all your other jobs that you have to do. So I think we need to just slow it down a little bit if we're not even thinking about implementing anything until 2027. Get the numbers right once and for all. Do it once and for all. And again, I agree with Mr. Hayden, yes. The fact that we really...
You force yourself on.
Yes.
I'm going to just over there.
That it's not sustainable to pick up all this bulk moving forward and from June on. I don't think we should rescind it at any point for the rest of the year. We have time to talk about it, how, especially we need to address the bulk. So we really need to, besides the 45-gallon can and the 2 cans, or maybe even 3 cans, should different buildings want. Again, what they're going to pay for to pick it all up. So I think I don't think we should rescind that at all. I know we'll have a lot of extra trash when we go to pick up cans that residents are using now that aren't appropriate, or the tops or whatever. And I know when one of my cans breaks, I always have to put a sign on it, please take the can. So those are my just that, again, I want to reiterate the fact that we want to do it right, and we're on a very clear path, I believe.
Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry.
Yes.
I assume the council is coming to agreement on the bulk items of picking up 2 bulk items once a month.
That's what I think.
So I'd say my comment with that is, how do you communicate that to the public, where we're now restricting it, putting it on certain days? If there's a process for how we can properly inform the community, because I imagine on top of not having that software, that CDG software, and that CTG software now, that is on top of everything else, burdening your staff more. So could you even enforce that? I don't got an answer. I know confidently you couldn't. So if we continue throughout the year, limiting it to 1 per pickup, I think that streamlines it. And then the new year, we can roll out as aggressive as an approach. I agree with that, limiting it to 2 per month.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, and I don't know, just rolling around the thought here, that quantifying garbage, and instead of in this year, implementing the second tier, I don't know, is it possible to open up the sticker program for the rest of the year to address the additional bulk items for those properties, and say, hey, we've got a plethora of stickers to give out, and it would help us get rid of these stickers also. So I don't know, if that's an idea that anybody's welcoming to.
Ms. Williams?
I just think it is important to get the numbers because the council president asked for the numbers weeks ago. And I think that any department head that we ask for numbers or anything from, I think the council deserves it.
No, you're 100% right. I do apologize. The numbers are in the budget. So if you look, the budget is what we budgeted for, and the only numbers that really don't have is what we've spent this year, right? So it's hard to quantify. It's all fluid right here because we don't know what comes from your house, your house, your house, your house, your house, right? So you're all charged the same. So I can't say that. I'm going to predict that 30% are going to want this bulk item program. I don't know what that number is actually going to be, right? We don't collect data on everybody's household, so it's hard to say this is what the number's going to. This is the exact number that you have to charge to the second tier. You understand?
I understand what you're saying, but just a little demo of something that you was gonna get us in 2 weeks, that's a start.
I will give it to you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
What numbers are you looking for? Some of it I thought wanted can cost, other factors, and looking to how do you do this as simple as possible starting off is to, again, the council has to set the quantity, and whatever you do with the bulk items, is it 1 to 2, whatever, but put those basic parameters in place, and then we're in a much better position to do some of the estimates and extrapolation in terms of actual cost. And there is the factor of, ideally, if everybody got the cans, it does increase the amount of time it's going to take to pick up the garbage, because you got to go pick up the can, bring it to the truck, and then bring it back. Where today with the bags, they can bring it directly to the truck, drop it, and move on. And those numbers, there's really no good way to do an estimate.
But so I'd say respectfully, we sent a few emails, one in which this morning just outlining the parameters were around the tier 1, tier 2 cost structure, the amount of tonnage that we expect, and then the gaps and projections for fiscal year 2027. And unfortunately, those are not received. Now, I think at these conversations, we can either harp on what we don't have or proceed forward with what we do. And I think the conversation tonight was still extremely valuable. I think being in the committee, not discrediting all the other voices, we do have to progress forward. This meeting does have to end tonight. I would say, Mr. Lund, you've been incredibly detailed. I appreciate your time. But I would say consider it to just the members of the committee, what are we comfortable proceeding with? And I would say my recommendation is, to Mr. O'Brien's earlier point, building that draft language for consideration. I think building upon Mr. Mouverant's point of also preparing to rescind the bulk sticker program. Mr. Lund, I don't think that would fall favorably on anyone to extend it. Even if we're trying to get rid of the stickers, that is my personal opinion. I welcome anyone else's. But sincerely, I believe the community is going to want to see what those cost projections look like, regardless of our confidence in them, because this is a consideration they're going to have to make. And what that protects us with is, in for our future budget conversations, a lot of what has held up increases in fees has just been our confidence in the program. And if we can confidently renovate or update this policy, I think that then puts us in a better space to understand, all right, what are the conversations going to look like in October and November ahead of time? Mr. McGrann.
Just to summarize, and I appreciate that we need to wrap this up. So prior discussion, we were talking about allowed 2 bulk items per week or per month. And then we talk about the manpower. So if I were to put out across the city 2 items every household, 1 time per month, the manpower behind that versus putting in 2 items every pickup cycle for every district.
Hard to say because bulk items are so big, from a couch to a vacuum cleaner, so hard to say. I think the mayor keyed on a key point of garbage is going to slow down when we go to a dedicated can. With a 45-gallon can, they're heavier. My guys are used to winging bags, and throwing the bags in the lighter cans. And when we go to a heavier, more durable, more reliable can, we are going to see garbage slow down, which is going to drive up the cost of operation. So, how long it's going to take extra, I don't know. How many more people we have to put on, I don't know. But these are all things that are variables that will lead into, like I said, shooting a reasonable number that works for us and the public, and then having a dedicated fund for those over. Let's shoot a little high, and then if it's in the dedicated fund, the money rolls over to the next year to supplement that department.
So continue from that. So we have the agreement that we can move forward with 2 bulk items per month, and anything over that is a violation. We're going to need to work with Corporation Council to what that violation fee is attached to that at that point in time. If you go over your 2 bulk item per month, and then stick with a 45-gallon dedicated can and with a lid. And the tier 1, which is basic, that we get charged right now. Tier 2 is added charge. So that's what they're focusing on, the fee for the tier 2. So tier 1 is my understanding that will be the basic fee every year, up or down, this time when we increase. So I think we need to narrow this down and simplify it. The fee that we're asking for is tier 2. And if we're going to agree to 2 bulk items per month, and then if there's a violation on that, then we need to work with Corporation Council to agree on a fee. And that could come from you based on your field work out there, what you think is a reasonable fee in terms of that violation and the administrative costs for that waste.
To do the best for the public is, like I said, having AI technology notify that is a violation, and we pick it up at the time we see the violation. If we have to go back and send a separate truck like we were doing in the sticker program, the cost of enforcement goes
double cost. Yes,
doubles the cost.
No, I agree with that.
Mr. Mayor.
The other component I would submit to the council for your consideration is talk about what Mr. O'Brien outlined is changing the code. And it's a more cumbersome process to do that. Within those changes, and we've done it in other areas of the code, where if you want to change the fee or change one item, you can do it by resolution. So that the code, 99% of it is fixed in law, and if you want to change it, you got to do the public hearing, you got to do the public notice, you got to do it. But if you're changing one small component of it, you can do that by resolution, and it builds flexibility in it. So as we go down the road, some of this you might want to increase the number, or you might want to decrease the number, and to do it, again, in the most expedited manner and one that's simple and straightforward.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Chairs, Mr. Inger.
So just a quick, based on what I've heard the mayor say for the last 2 months, and see would you guys be comfortable with the 6-7 bags? If we were to quantify that, and that sound, I just made myself angry saying 6-7 like that, but 6 or 7 bags would be manageable for you guys to get that done, as long with the 2 bulk items. I know Mr. LaFond had spoke about the time framing, right? You guys are the only ones that have to get the job done. You don't get to come back the next day. Would that be manageable, or do you feel that would be too much? Right? I'm just saying, obviously, everyone's going to put up 6 or 7 bags.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Inger.
I am in agreement with you, Mr. Mudavaren. If we go to 2 bulk items a month and a 45-gallon can, I think, again, if we stick to simple for now, and then we can roll out the increased fee schedule by resolution, that at least helps get our guys on board, it starts the process, and we can move forward.
Yes.
Perfect. So is that a motion?
Motion for what?
Well, not motion, but how we're going to proceed. So is that interpreted by Mr.
It's a
Ryan?
motion. To give, yes, the commissioner and legal, the framework in which to start drafting the ordinance.
Perfect. And
Sorry.
expectation is to have that back at council for 2 weeks.
2 weeks, we'll have a working draft for you, and at that point, you can tweak it, change it, and then at that time, you can call for the public hearing for March 26th at the council meeting of March 7th.
Mr. Inger?
Just to add to that,
I mean, March
again,
26th.
other members in the committee, I think we should put in there, has to have a lid,
Ken must have one, yes.
must have a lid, the garbage must be in bags, the lid must be attached. I don't know how we feel about wheels.
Well, most of these can come with wheels, but sometimes you know, accident may occur.
But I think definitely a lid attached, and definitely the garbage has to be in bags in the can.
Yes. So that would be a draft, but whatever we're discussing here, this is only for 1 unit. So if there's a 2 unit, you're allowed 4 bulk items, 2 cans for garbage, solid
Be
waste,
quantified.
and 2 for recycle.
Correct.
So we might want to capture that in the draft.
Right.
Yes.
Perfect. There are no other
I
questions.
think this is good.
Head in the right direction.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Lund.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
Get her to sit down if anyone has another question.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
And we'll touch base on the fee structure.
The next item is a reminder to amend Section 9-2 of the Schenectady City Code to increase the membership of the Downtown Schenectady Assessment District Board from 9 to 15 members and to amend such membership qualifications. There will be a public hearing on April 27th, 2026. Any questions, comments? Hearing none. The last 2 items, I believe, are for executive session. However, I do want to clarify, item number 7 just identifies proposed settlement. I just wanted to expand that as a settlement involving Andre Porter. The Corporation Counsel is not here to tell me if I need to expand that any further.
That is a settlement with more than likely, yes. It's executive session. The motion to move into executive session?
Just gonna wait for them to validate that, but I think we can. Okay, so at this moment, I'll entertain a motion to enter executive session.
So,
Second?
Second.
All's in favor?
Aye.
We are in executive session. Remember, the public will have to exit.